Other question I had was foreclosures. So I think a lot of us thought we'd be seeing more foreclosures in the market today, considering rates are as high as they are. Now, I know there's a lot of people who don't have mortgages on their homes, but and we now see the increased amortization. How far along do you think until we're going to see some of these foreclosures? And have either of you transacted a foreclosed property before?
Ryan, you want it first?
I can go first. Yeah. So we haven't seen like a big uptick in terms of foreclosure. It seems like a fairly normal amount in terms of the past history there. I've offered on foreclosures. I've still yet to successfully get one personally. I've also actually looked for myself too. Just the thing with foreclosures, once you get the accepted offer, you go through all that, you go to a court date. And that gives an opportunity for anyone else to bid on that at the court date. And I actually lost from $100. I was $100 short from the top bidder. So we did not get that one. But I think the foreclosure scene in Canada is very different than the US. That's a perfect example that it is sometimes tough to get them. But yeah, it might not happen until, like, I know I hate to say it, but if recession and people do lose their jobs, there's not really much of an option. People do either need to sell, and if they can't pay for the mortgage, then the bank unfortunately would step in that sense, in that case there. But right now we're just seeing people still have work. There's a lot of demand for it's a very robust economy as we're seeing. People are able to service that debt. And like Steve was saying, but banks seem okay to be extending the amortization period. They're not clamping down hard in the immediate moment. They're giving people a bit of time and space to sort it. So that's kind of that's not really, it's been kind of a holding out in terms of foreclosures and people having to sell their house, which from a societal point of view is probably a good thing.
Yeah, I think, the foreclosure process in like BC, for example, takes on average about 12 to 15 months. So the time that you miss your first payment to the time you're actually like selling your house in a foreclosure, it's a long process, right? So the fact is, Bank of Canada started raising rates, I think they started last March. So we're not even, it's going to take time basically for foreclosures to actually filter through. To Ryan's point, yeah, I've done a bunch of foreclosures, won some, lost some. I find that it's very hit or miss. Like my general rule of thumb is I think you tend to get about a 5% discount for foreclosures. What I find now, I just got outbid on a foreclosure 3 weeks ago, and somebody paid more than what you could have probably bought it as a normal resale. So this is the problem, where it's like in these foreclosures is that you go in, the new process is you go in completely blind. You have no idea how many people are actually competing because there's no more court dates. They did this whole COVID thing where everything is now online, remote. So it's completely blind. And so it's always like, yeah, you can definitely get good deals in foreclosures, but we also see people overpay.
Yeah, I know duplex I bought, the neighbor was a foreclosure and he got $100,000 off what I paid, but his place was a mess and he probably had 20 to 30,000 of work that had to get done and probably a lot of stress. So there's certainly some trade-offs there, but if you want to save some money, you might get lucky and get a deal.